With that, the gentleman from Kentucky, Mr. Barr, who is the chairman of the Financial Institutions and Monetary Policy Subcommittee, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And let me just first say, Mr. Chairman, thank you for your outstanding leadership in our committee as the leader of our ESG task force and for exposing the flaws and the problems associated with the politicization of capital allocation. You've done a great job. I have to also say thank you to our hosts, Congressman Rose and Ogles. Thanks for the warm welcome in Tennessee, notwithstanding Kentucky's early exit from the SEC tournament. And Professor Scott, I was hoping for a University of Tennessee, University of Kentucky final. Alas, we'll have to wait to maybe the Final Four or something for that rematch.
Right, yep.
It's okay. He regularly owes me a dinner after MSU beats Kentucky, so that's okay.
But again, thanks for Congressman Rose and Ogles for your warm welcome. Thanks to the Wilson County Fairgrounds and to our witnesses. I love these field hearings because we're in the heartland of America. We're actually with the real people. And sometimes I feel like the bureaucrats, the unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats at the Securities and Exchange Commission need to get out to Wilson County. They need to hear from Ms. Jones. They need to hear from real America because inundating Americans with trivial, non-material information and disclosures is not in keeping with what the American people want or need. And they need to do a better job listening to the American people. You know, they say they've simplified the final rule because they've jettisoned this very unpopular Scope 3, but maybe not, as Congressman Rose pointed out. But the original proposal was only 534 pages. The final rulemaking is 886 pages. That's the final rule. I don't know how that was a simplification. Nevertheless, when you look at the final rule of any SEC or any regulatory proposal, I think you should look at it from the lens of the statutory mission of the agency. And what is the statutory mission of the Securities and Exchange Commission? It's a tripartite mission. 1, protect investors. 2, facilitate capital formation. And 3, maintain fair, orderly, and efficient markets. So let me ask our witnesses about those 3 statutory goals. First, protecting investors. It is estimated that this rule would increase external costs of public companies by 21% and imposes complex compliance risks. We've heard about the litigation risk. So to Professor Scott, you've cited these competing standards and the lack of clear guidance on the procedures that companies should follow when reporting emissions from the Global Logistics Emission Council, Institute for Financial Reporting Standards, International Sustainability Standards Board, et cetera, et cetera. Will this, all of these competing standards and the complexity of this, will that enhance the ability of public companies to deliver on corporate earnings, or will that divert resources away from financial performance and instead towards compliance and litigation avoidance?
Yes, it clearly diverts costs from from their financial performance onto compliance costs, collecting data. They're going to have to hire people or hire expertise such as consulting firms, law firms. The cost will certainly go up in knowing which one they have to comply with, whether it's acceptable from a legal perspective, which you wouldn't even know until a lawsuit occurred. So the costs are certainly imposed on these companies by these type of regulations. And it's, in a large degree, not value add.
So Ms. Hermendorfer made the point that, I think she's citing from the agency itself, that the estimated compliance costs would exceed $4 billion. Is that enhancing to investor protection? Does that enhance companies to focus on delivering investor returns, or does it detract from a company's ability to deliver on returns to the shareholders?
Anytime you have a thing diverting from the mission of the company and diverting from innovation and cutting cost, yes, it's going to detract from investability and from considerations around driving shareholder value.
And will the liability uncertainty result in over-reporting or under-reporting?
Oh, absolutely over-reporting. Some of the materiality language, is it reasonably likely to be material in the future? And we're talking about climate events that are unknowable based on data that doesn't exist. So, of course, a shareholder after the fact is going to be able to say, oh, you reasonably should have known, should have predicted the future.
So over-reporting means that more likely than not, there will be immaterial information provided to investors. Is that conducive to maximizing investor returns, or is it likely to result in lower returns for investors?
Anytime you have something detracting from the core mission of the company and what they do and what they make, it's going to decrease value and not add it's going to decrease shareholder value without any attendant benefit to investors.
So strike one, not protecting investors. Point number two, the energy industry. What is the impact on the energy industry? You know, I'm Professor Scott, I'd love for you to discuss how the final rule would alter public institutions' willingness and ability to do business with traditional companies in the United States, like those in the energy and freight trucking industries. Is this really about? Is this rule really about disclosing financial risk or creating financial risk for politically unfashionable energy businesses?
Well, yes, it will certainly impact the energy producers the most because they would have the largest carbon emissions. It also would change the calculus of whether companies do things themselves with their own assets and their own manufacturing plants, or whether they use third parties, or whether they use third parties perhaps offshore or in another location, because that will reduce their emissions just by accounting, right? Even though emissions don't necessarily decrease overall, it's just an accounting change from going from something they own versus something they don't own. Certainly energy would be affected probably the most by this.
If the second mission is facilitating capital formation, and the rule would redirect capital away from certain American industries, that seems like strike two, not facilitating capital formation. But final point on fair, orderly, and efficient markets. Ms. Hermendorfer, Chairman Gensler justifies the rule by arguing that the rule would enhance consistency, comparability, and reliability of company climate disclosures. But the final rule, as the SEC has admitted, would allow public companies themselves to determine for themselves what disclosures are in fact material to investors. Further, what one investor may deem to be material, another investor may not. That being the case, would the final rule in fact enhance consistency, comparability, and reliability, or would it just increase confusion in markets?
I think for the reasons Professor Scott mentioned, it would increase confusion without any attendant benefit.
Well, strike three, and I've gone way over time, but I thank the chairman, and I thank my host from Tennessee for your indulgence in letting me go on a little bit longer. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. I'm going to give a little lay of the land.